Well, we all understand by now just how necessary social distancing is to flatten the coronavirus curve. It's also causing a bit of a social recession in what people are doing to communicate with each other. And, well, we need to improve that.
Joining us now to talk about just that and the loneliness factor, especially when it comes to the elderly population, is success coach Carlin Purcell. Good morning, Carlin.
Good morning, Dina. Good morning, Diva.
Good morning.
It's so good to see you. See, this is what we're doing. This is how we can see you through a social distance. It's safe. And you're going to teach us tips and tricks right now, because I'm just imagining all the people living alone all the time, or the elderly who can't have visitors. They can't see their kids and their grandkids. Maybe they don't have the technical abilities to do what we're doing right now. So where do we begin?
We begin by staying in touch and not just calling, but also asking them what do they need in this moment and in this time. And especially with the connection, the brain is wired for us to connect with each other. So not being able to see each other, not being able to touch each other, not being able to experience life and the people that we usually connected to through all our five senses will definitely take an impact. So there is a period, I call it grief and sadness, that we have to allow ourselves to feel, especially when it comes to the elderly population, to ensure that we're actually giving ourselves permission to feel this unprecedented moment that none of us have actually been through.
And with that elderly population, how do we support them the best? I know you're saying, trying to reach out to them, but what else can we do to really give them that support?
I say families can create like mini plays or mini movies, like going through the coronavirus together. And that can look like maybe have daily happy hour with the grandparents with technology. But if you don't have technology, other things can be like writing them notes. Writing daily notes. Day one, a note to grandma, a note to grandpa. My husband's parents are in the 80s. So what I do every day is that I send a note when he goes to visit them. He's the only one who's visiting them because just to minimize the risk, to make sure that they're okay. Do puzzles together. Hopefully people can still mail things to each other, buy a puzzle book, or if there is an assigned person to visit them, bring a puzzle book over and do it together. And when you call them, you can actually work through the puzzle together. Another thing that can be done is also read together. Probably there's a book that the children can call and have reading hour with the grandparents, and also create a scrapbook. Something that the family can do to stay connected to is create a scrapbook with maybe looking at old vacation photos and so forth. So when they do get to visit their parents, then that can be delivered to them as well.
I love all those ideas. You also talk about, how we see the parents coming out with the timetables and the schedules for the kids. Maybe schedule, say, 3 times a week at noon, and you're going to call your mom or your dad, and you're going to share a meal together on speakerphone. So it's like you're sitting down to a meal
it's great.
and enjoying it, right? Together, even though you can't see one another.
Yes, that's also a great way to connect. And it's important to have the voice connection. And it's also important to talk about and check in with them and ask, how are they feeling? Because they're also cooped up in the house, which is not the norm for them. Yeah. So also checking in with them and seeing, how are you feeling? Is there anything you need? Don't be afraid to ask them as well. And also, our grandparents, they haven't been through this, but they have been through some things that we probably cannot relate to as well. So also check in with them and ask them, when did you go through something similar? Maybe it's time to write that book, because our grandparents have some amazing stories that we never really get to hear. So the kids can probably take turns when they call them to start writing a chapter in the lives of their grandparents day by day.
Such good advice.
So good advice. And, that's the conversation and the art of listening during this time is so important. That is great advice. And Carlin, you're going to be joining Tracy Moore live on Cityline's Instagram later on this morning at 10 a.m. right after we are done this show right here. So that'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be great information for everybody to check in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's some great advice. We'll be back with more BT right after this.